Speaker, great to see you. How are you?
Hey, welcome to the Capitol.
It's great to be. This is your, what, ceremonial office?
It is, it is.
All right, you weren't the biggest Donald Trump supporter in the campaign, but the relationship seems to have gotten better. As a matter of fact, you went from, let's see, weak and ineffective all the way to fine wine and a good partner. So what did you miss? Do you regret not going in deep before him? What do you think of him now?
Well, we tried to at the end, but schedules, we were going to do this big event in Wisconsin at the end, but they ended up deciding to go to Michigan at the last minute because they thought they had a shot at Michigan, and it was a good decision because they won Michigan. So what I did not see, and I said this at my press conference the day after the election, is Donald Trump heard something that no one else heard. He connected with people in this country unlike anybody I've ever seen before running for president. Remember, I ran for vice president the last election, and I basically thought about an election the way we thought about it in 2012. And what he did was mix up the constituency, the vote coalition. He spoke to people who felt like they hadn't been spoken to in years, and he gave voice to people who felt like they were voiceless. And he tapped into that, and that is something that most people didn't see. And that's something that I said the next day, bravo, very impressed.
And how do you feel about it? How's the relationship now?
It's great. It's really good, actually. You know, I didn't know the guy. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. We met basically once. And so what we've been doing, we speak constantly. We talk all the time. We're working on the same plan. What I did during the transition with my counterpart in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, is we put together a 200-day plan for the president to get this agenda that we all have agreed on through the system. And we're exactly on track and on our timeline with that agenda.
Well, that's really the biggest part of what I want to discuss today, because let's go through what Donald Trump has done. He started executive orders, eased the burden of Obamacare, impending actions to freeze, get rid of 75% of all regulations. He withdrew from TPP. He had a federal hiring freeze. He banned money to go from foreign countries for abortion. He signed executive action for Keystone, for the Dakota pipeline. He issued executive orders on the construction of the border wall. He stripped money from sanctuary cities. He's taken action, as we all know, on an extreme vetting, and we'll get to that in a minute. He used executive action to rebuild the military. A plan will be on his desk in 7 days to defeat ISIS. And he nominated Neil Gorsuch. We saw him meet with the prime ministers of Canada, Great Britain, and yesterday, of course, with Bibi Netanyahu. So what I see, this is the biggest question I'm getting from radio and from television. He's moving at the speed of light. And people have been asking me, it's the top story on the Drudge Report today. Where's Congress? Because for 8 years, you guys had a plan. You kept saying and promising you would repeal, replace Obamacare. And I guess what people want to know is, when are these things going to get done?
We're exactly on the timeline that we designed for ourselves. Obamacare is coming next. The reason—
Starting today, really.
Well, no, our bill is coming in March.
Right.
So the reason we're doing regulatory reform right now is we have a certain window of time where we can go back into the Obama administration and cancel their regulations. It's a law called the Congressional Review Act, and it has a shelf life for just a couple of months. And so we've been consuming February and March as regulatory reform, going back into the Obama administration and canceling their regulations. And so first, it's regulatory reform because we have this window of time to cancel bad Obama regulations. Then we're doing Obamacare. After we're done with Obamacare, then we're doing our budget. And our budget is the second budget, which will be tax reform. So we're doing 2 budgets in 1 year, which has never been done before. This is faster than has ever been done before. So you have to understand, there's a legislative process, and we have all of these things we ran on that we said we would do. We're now in the middle of doing those things. And January and February is the regulatory stuff, because the clock on the ability to go after Obama regulations ends soon.
All right, here's the big question. The president ran on an agenda. You said he touched or tapped into something that other people missed. Well, we have 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, lowest labor participation rate, lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. So here's my question. Donald Trump runs and he says, I'm going to build a wall, repeal and replace Obamacare. Right. He says, I'm going to vet refugees. I'm going to make America energy independent. We're going to go from 7 brackets to 3, corporate tax rate 15%, allow repatriation at 10% for multinational corporations. He runs on education back to the states, fixing the VA, building up our military to have a stronger military. This is the question that I think conservatives and Americans, and I would call this the forgotten man election, they want to know, and this hopefully you'll answer today. Because I heard everything from Obamacare will be done day 1, to the spring, to the summer, by the end of the year. And so it's been all over the map, not just from you, but from other people. I also heard people
It
say...
actually hasn't been all over the map from us, from me.
Okay. Well,
it's been
members
all
of
over
Congress...
the map for the press. It's been all over the map from rumor mills. But from us here in Congress, we're exactly on the timeline that we laid out for ourselves.
When I heard repair, my head nearly exploded.
That's not the plan. The plan
is
to repeal and replace this law. Like we said, we ran on a plan to repeal and replace it. Tom Price helped write that plan. He is now Donald Trump's Secretary of HHS.
So there is a consensus plan that's now being scored by the CBO?
Correct.
Okay, so here's my question. I just listed his agenda, what he ran on, for the forgotten men and women that voted for him. Do you
Which just to me, again, that's the agenda we're working on right now. That's the 200-day plan.
Is there any item that I mentioned that you disagree with?
No, not at all.
In the 200, you're saying to the American people and conservatives that are impatient, including myself, and you heard my monologue.
I would love to do this stuff yesterday, but getting Congress to act on all those things you just said in 1 year's time, unprecedented. We do these things. This will be the most productive presidency and Congress in our lifetimes.
That's my question. You agree with every item I mentioned, even extreme vetting?
Yeah, we passed that bill a year ago in the House.
I know you now agree with building the wall.
Yes,
you have.
By the way, I did back then too. But that was in the plan that the House Republicans ran on. That was in Donald Trump's plan. It
was supposed to be done in 06.
It's actually a bill I voted for in 2006. But the problem we had since 2006 was Barack Obama was our president. Now we have a president who's actually serious about securing the border.
And coming to the House, Paul Ryan. Are you telling the American people that agenda, that litany, I'll go through vetting refugees, building the wall, repeal, replace, education back to the states, tax reform, all of this is going to be done in 200 days.
The education part may be a little later because we're waiting for Betsy DeVos to put together her plan. So on the education thing and the welfare reform, that's going to be outside of the 200-day window. Inside the 200-day window is the regulatory reforms we talked about. It's the repeal and replace Obamacare. It's the budget. It's the rebuilding of our military. It's tax reform. Those are the things that we're working on, and infrastructure. Those are the things we're working on in this 2017
Where's energy independence
calendar.
In the equation? Because I think
that's in there as well. I should have said that. We see that as part of regulatory reform. By the way, we've already done a lot of energy independence. The coal regulation that we repealed from the Obama era, that is a huge energy independence move because it's going to bring back thousands of jobs in coal country. We can unlock Western Europe. We can compete with OPEC. And we couldn't get this with Barack Obama. Now with Donald Trump, we can permit those things.
Back to the main list. So in 200 days, you're fairly confident that a budget is going to be passed. I'm going to get to the specifics. Two budgets, which has never happened. That the wall is in the process of being constructed.
Yeah.
We're going to be working on fixing the VA. That Congress will support extreme vetting, and that they'll move forward with energy independence.
Yeah, so
and Obamacare repeal and replace.
He can do the extreme vetting on his own. So this is the good thing is you have a president that agrees with Congress on doing the extreme vetting.
But in 200 days, you think that's doable?
This is our plan, yeah. And if there's any slippage, we'll finish it in the fall and get it done before the end of the year.
So if I come back in 200 days, you're gonna go, well, I made a promise. We got it done.
Well,
because I think this is important.
So here's what I'm saying. We've mapped this out for 200 days. We have a plan to do that. We're on schedule. But if anything slips because of another Supreme Court justice, or a filibuster on a cabinet nominee, that might slip us. But we're making sure that we do all of this in 2017.
Okay, let's go to the budget, which is such a big issue. The president, 7 brackets to 3, 15% corporate rate. I know you prefer 20 because that scores with the
I prefer 15.
It scores.
Yeah, I have to get what we can with the numbers. It's math. It's a math thing.
You support repatriation, multinational corporations. That will be huge. That's a lot of money that can come back into the economy.
Probably about $3 trillion of stranded capital
10%
overseas.
rate or lower?
That's something we had lower in our bill. Donald had 10% in his. It was really close.
Did I make a mistake in my monologue in this sense? And you called me after I was pretty hard hit.
I heard about your monologue.
Okay, I heard about it. All right. Yeah. So you called me. By the way, it was pretty gracious of you to call me, and you said you wanted to explain what we're doing. Because, look, I follow the news every day. I talk to people on my radio show. I'm a maniac on Twitter. I have a TV show. And everybody's saying the same thing. What the hell's going on with the Republican
Let me just get you there.
But here's my thing. Is there a communication problem? Because you're making me feel better today. Because I feel for this long-term, to stop the bleeding, to stop America's precipitous decline, these policies need to be put in place.
That's exactly right. That's why we're here.
Exactly.
That's why Donald Trump ran for president. So here's what we did after this election. We said, Mr. President-elect, before he was president, we agree on all these things. We all agree on what we need to do to save this country. We're conservatives.
And why were you guys so harsh against them?
Well,
not willing to support them?
Let's get beyond that. And then we said, okay, let's map out our strategy for how to get this done, when to get it done. We all sat for 3 months and worked out that plan for 2017. And that's exactly what we're executing.
Okay. What have you learned about President Trump that you didn't know before, that surprised you? What do you like most about him, and where do you disagree with him?
He's warm, he's personable, he's compassionate, and he likes getting stuff done. I love that about him. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Those of us who've been conservatives pent up here, fighting the Obama administration, the progressive left, he is a conservative, and he is ready to take on these challenges. And so that is what I'm excited about. He moves so fast that people are scrambling to catch up, especially the media. And so I love the fact that he is not in any way shy about getting big, bold things done. He is aggressive about getting big, bold things done.
What do you think of the way the left's reacting? What did you think about the Russian issue that keeps coming up again and again?
Well, I think that it's just like you say. There's nothing new here. You have to remember the Obama intelligence community, under President Obama's direction, did a huge investigation community-wide about Russia's involvement. There was no evidence presented to Congress that any American, let alone Donald Trump, had any involvement in that. It was all about Russia trying to meddle with our elections, meddle with our country. We knew this. We know this.
Here's my headline out of this interview: that you're in pretty much full agreement with what Donald Trump ran on.
Yes.
And number two, in 200 days, from the legislative side, you are going to be implementing every aspect of that agenda that we talked about.
Yep. And just to
that's a big headline.
And we have cushion in our schedule. If anything slips, because it's really because of Senate issues, we still have time to accommodate all of this stuff in 2017.
To give you 200,
so I even have safety valves. I have cushions built in the schedule to make sure this all gets done in 2017.
Because I believe in
case something happens and goes sideways on the Senate.
I'm pretty sure that'll stimulate the economy, get people back to work, and get the economy moving again, which I think we need.
That's what we're hired to do.
All right, Mr. Speaker. We'll see you in 200 days.
Yeah,
Good to see you.
So maybe before then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you bet, Sean.
Thank you very much.